Today's episode of Three Wise Men is proudly brought to you by Club Aquarius.
G'day everyone, Mitch Rodd here and welcome to another edition of Three Wise Men, where we're looking into the Sunraysia Football and Netball League preliminary final this weekend between Robinvale-Euston and Irymple. And joining me this week, if I'm Mo, I've got Larry and Curly here, Pat Silcox and John Hollywood. Welcome again, boys.
Thank you, Mitch.
And a fantastic game we watched on the weekend, and Imperials through to the SFNL Grand Final. Thoughts on that, boys?
Your boys, Johnny?
Yeah, they were very good. I didn't expect them to be this good this early. I thought Henshall Oval wouldn't suit their game style, but it certainly did. They were very good for me.
Yeah, look, it was a physical game. It was a brutal game at times, wasn't it? But they won the Stoush Stakes, I guess, as it were, and that set them well on the path to victory. We
will go more in depth into that game in just a second, but first off, congratulations to all the premiership winners out in the Mildura competitions over the weekend. Of course, Bamble winning the Mildura Football League and the Sunraysia Women's Football League Grand Finals, and Werribee winning the A-grade netball title as well. If you are interested in purchasing premiership posters, you can contact the Mildura Weekly office. We do fully customised editions of posters for anyone out there. Also, if you want to put in a pre-order for the Sunraysia Football and Netball League Grand Finals, get them in by early next week and we can cater to whatever your needs are. And boys, I suppose the green and white fans from Imperials will be hopefully coming in their droves to purchase some posters, because they showed they were some pretty impressive form, wasn't it, Johnny, for the weekend?
And no disrespect, those posters are always fantastic, so if you can keep those and frame one of those, they're brilliant, aren't they?
Our man Kieran Mangan does a fantastic job on the cartoons, whereas I can barely draw stick figures. I don't know about you boys.
Me too, drawing's not my forte either, but look, regards to that footy match, Paddy, I just loved the way the physical contest was. It wasn't anything dirty or brutal to me, it was just hard at it for me.
It was finals type footy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was, and I think just the traditional structure which we talked about a week or so ago really stood them in good stead, didn't it? They had the key targets to aim up for, and Mason Middleton, well, he came out of the box finally. He's played pretty good so far, but that was his real breakthrough game for me.
Yeah, it really was, wasn't it? He's 6'6", he doesn't get any smaller, he can grab, he can jump, he can do all the right things. I even like when he went into the ruck, you know, because I thought Cros was really honest for them on Saturday. I thought he was very good in the ruck, certainly in the taps in the centre and that sort of stuff. Young Keo was great around the ground, but I thought Cros was fantastic in the centre taps. Mason's gone in there, done his job, then gone forward and kicked three.
Potentially on paper, it looks like it could be a downgrade for Middleton, who was in this Sandful early in the season, but all of a sudden found himself in the Resies, falling out of love with footy, and now he's come over to Imperials and is playing a key role, Paddy.
Yeah, that's West Adelaide connections there, obviously with Adam Hartlett as the coach and David Hankin coming over in the pre-season, so they're building a nice little nest of the
old bloods.
The old blood and tars, yeah.
Absolutely they are. Well, of course, Irymple were the side that went down on the weekend, and they're going to take on Robinvale-Euston, who will be buoyed after their semi-final victory over Wentworth 2 weeks ago. And boys, we'll get into our 5 key questions for this weekend's game. We'll start with, can Robinvale-Euston capitalise on a bruised Swallow side? Obviously, we said it was a physical contest, and no doubt probably a few of the Irymple boys will be feeling it. And maybe take a little bit of confidence out of that Robinvale-Euston, considering the way they played the week before.
Yeah, Robinvale-Euston were very good the week before, weren't they? And that's a confidence booster. It's finals. We haven't picked any of you two picked a winner yet. I haven't. No, I haven't either. So we're not experts after all. But look,
we're having as much success as a Jehovah's Witness, I think, coming to people's front doors.
Yeah, knocking on, just tell them what's going on. But look, of course, Robinvale are going to come in with all the confidence in the world. Irymple were banged around a bit on Saturday, but for me, they're not out of it by any means. The biggest important thing for Irymple for me is, as Nathan Hero comes up, that his ankle's fine, Brody Jackson get back on the track, that sort of stuff. Just as long as they can get through injury-free leading up to this week, to me, I still think they'll be fine.
And obviously, Nick Mee coming back from suspension as well is going to make a big difference, Paddy.
Yeah, I thought maybe they were exposed for leg speed a little bit, John, on the weekend, and we know that the Eagles have got that in spades, Seamus Mitchell and the Moi boys, so they'll need a bit of extra spark, and Nick Mee will certainly provide that.
With that, would you make some changes to the Irymple side, boys, just quickly? Just leg speed, there's lots in the twos. I watched the twos game, half of the twos game, there's lots of leg speed in that two side.
Yeah, well, I suppose you had young Connor Mensch, who had his first game back from a collarbone injury. I think maybe pulling up a little bit sore afterwards, but if you need leg speed, he's certainly one who can come in and make a difference.
Young Doreen's in there.
Jared Aiello, I think, has a bit of leg speed as well.
A nice, tall 6'1", 6'2" run type player. There's plenty of leg speed in that two side.
Now, I guess onto the second talking point, what lessons do Irymple take out of the game against Imperials? Obviously, they were beaten, especially in the second half, Johnny more so at the coalface. Is that some of the main lessons you think they'll take from it and maybe make some improvements?
Look, I think they've known they've been beaten on the coalface most of the year. Certainly in regards to the ruck contest, they've been beaten most of the year. No disrespect to the ruckmen they've carried throughout the season. They haven't had a genuine ruckman until they've brought Cros back and young Mitchell's come in again. But look, for me, they've had the ability around the ground to get away with it. They've had the talent to get away with it. losing a couple of guys on Saturday with injuries, that took their talent levels down a little bit, and then they got physically outclassed on the ball for me. So I think they'll learn from that. They'll bounce back, and they cart the ball and carry the ball as well as anybody. Certainly as well as Robinvale for me. So if they can get their leg speed back, they're fine.
I think the key, Mitch, is an even spread. Imps displayed that, didn't they, John?
Yeah,
they
did.
were so good across the whole 21 that took the field. They need to get more out of some of their key recruits too, I think. So if they can get that even spread, I think that they'll be okay.
They're such a precision kicking team, Irymple, but that disposal efficiency was really down on the weekend. Do you think that more sort of came from the pressure that Imperials were placing on them, Paddy?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's hard to get a good kick away when you've got someone on your hammer and tack, and it's not only the actual physical pressure, it's that perceived pressure, isn't it, John, of knowing how much time you've got to get rid of the footy.
It's almost a bit of a cliche now when you hear perceived pressure talking about modern
Of
footy,
course
but it's absolutely critical, isn't it, John?
Oh, you can't see it, but it's there. You know what I mean? It's not something you can touch or you can feel, but you know it's there. I don't know about you guys certainly upstairs calling the game, but certainly from my level down at ground level, it's quicker, it's faster, there's no doubt about that. So finals games, it's gone up a notch, there's no doubt.
Yep.
Yeah, and potentially, I guess, the versatility that Irymple do have means they're more capable of swinging some of these changes, Johnny?
Oh, look, I think so. They've done it throughout the year. They've made lots of changes throughout the year. They've played a lot of players. I think they've played about 34 different senior players. So they've played a few. And that's not because of just injury. They've done that because they've got the ability with the players they've got in the twos to rotate around. They'll work it out really quickly. They'll go right through it. They would have already looked at the video for me. They'll be right into mode for Robinvale this week.
We were impressed with the way that Imperials' Jaden Niall wore Dan Coughlin like a glove in that run with roll on the weekend. So I guess the next talking point is, should Robinvale-Euston follow that lead and put a direct tag on Dan Coughlin?
It's a good question, Mitch. I mean, I guess it worked for Imps, but I mean, you look through that Eagles squad and you think, who's capable of doing that sort of job?
Well, Clayton Taylor's probably the first one that comes to mind, but the last game that we called, Johnny, he was probably outrun a little bit, I think, by Dan Coughlin at different times, not from any lack of effort from his end, just Cogs was that good on
just
that day.
The engine difference, that sort of stuff. Cogs is very hard to match up on. I think Cogs' incident when he got, shepherded off the ball in the second term had a lot to do with how he went forward. He didn't look right. You guys called that with radio. You said he doesn't look good in the third. He was starting off half-back line, that sort of stuff, rather than the centre. So he might have picked up a bit of a rib injury out of that contest, which was fair. It was just hard. It was fair, but it was hard. So if he comes up, I don't know if you go that way. I don't know if Robinvale have got the person to do it.
They probably get some numbers through that rotation.
Exactly.
You run 3 or 4 on the day and try and wear him out by sheer weight of quantity, more so than having the quality of someone one-on-one.
What's the chances of him only getting 16 touches again? We've called 6 games for Irymple this year. The lowest he's ever had before that was 26.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure there's been a couple of games where our friend Adam Bennett, doing the numbers for us, almost had him with 16 touches in the opening quarter.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's a very rare occasion that you see Dan Coughlin get less than 20, and I don't think you're going to see that again.
Not at all, mate.
I don't either.
And I guess for the rest of the matchups around the ground, because Irymple have so many good playmakers, do Robinvale-Euston try to be a little bit defensive with some of those, or do you think they should just go on the attack themselves?
I'm an attack mode guy. They've got nothing to lose. They've now come third. They know that. Now's the chance to get into the top 2, get into that grand final. I'd go all out attack.
And I think that's probably the way they play their best footy too, isn't it, Paddy?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we saw that in the first quarter and the first semi, didn't we, John? They got all the heavy bodies into the contest and they just aimed up and opened up the forward line for the likes of Josh Martin to cut loose.
And all they did in that contest stuff is that all those blokes were in there to do was just to get it out. And they got out to their runners. Their wingmen at the time were just carting that ball forward. It was beautiful to watch that first turn.
Well, I just have to call those boys the crowbars. I think fellas just put them in the middle and opened it right up. We mentioned his name before, but talking point number 4, how important is Nick Mee's return for Irymple this week? It's be the first game he would have played in 5 or 6 weeks.
Here,
oh, look, he's vital. But as I mentioned in the call on Saturday, I think they need to work those ball runners and get some of them actually ahead of the footy. I mean, we know that the likes of a Caldwell, Nick Mee in the past, even Jimmy Flack have played defensive. I'd like to see them just really take a bit of initiative and get them in through the midfield or even across half forward, because Nick Mee, we know how good a running shot for goal that he is. He can't hurt you if he's kicking them from half back, but if he gets the ball across centre wing, it's look out, isn't it?
And I think if you play them on, say, Nick Mee and James Flack, for example, on the same flanks, one on the same wing and on that half forward line, you can easily get the ball over the back as well, because we saw young Mitch Rodd on the weekend, unfortunately, was just outnumbered 3-1 on different occasions, putting the ball on his head where he's much better on the lead. If they are going to go long and you've got someone like a James Flack or a Nick Mee who's got the speed to get over the back, that could be dangerous, John.
Yeah, very dangerous. Nick Mee to me is vital, and he's vital. He comes back in form, so I hope he's kept himself really fit and he's raring to go, because he's a must, especially if Jackson is not 100%. Jackson was their only run and carry for the first quarter and a half from that from the defence line. He's really, really important. I'm with Paddy. I'd love to see him start on a wing.
Yeah, and you look at number 3 being a bit smaller, and that early takeaway out of the centre almost clears centre half forward and gets straight into the goal square. So if he's getting his hands on the footy inside the screen and kick a goal from there.
Yeah, well, I suppose that leads us on to our last talking point as well, the old school ruck battle that's going to be ahead. A couple of, almost ruckman of the past, not so much the athletic big guys, but Justin Nayland and Shane Crossling, who've done a fantastic job for their respective teams in these 2 finals so far. Who wins that battle, fellas?
Interesting question. I mean, Knocker was very, very good and got them going, I thought, in the first quarter against the Winnie boys. And, Crozzer, Father Time, he's just wound about the clock in the last half of the season. Who would have thought he'd be back playing senior footy?
Well,
But
I don't
he's
think
his
he
best.
Must be something in the water he's delivering, boys.
I don't think he did. And he kept playing twos and he kept himself fit. I know he was getting to train whenever he was available without doing his business stuff. But thank God he has, because he's going to keep them alive. He's going to get them going forward. If they go on to win a flag this year, it's going to be on Crozzer's back. No disrespect to that, because on Saturday, at least he gave him a half and half and a good share. I thought he was fantastic for them all day on Saturday. Great contest. I don't know who's going to win it, though.
Obviously, from the first semi-final that we called down in Oyen, Leon Johnson went down with a knee injury just before half-time, so Nayland did take the ruck pretty much by himself in that second half, and you would expect he'd probably be tasked with doing the same thing, Johnny, maybe with Jake Calvert doing a bit of pinch hitting.
That's exactly right. I think you'll find he'll get 90% of the ruck, 85% of the ruck, and he won't push too far forward. He'll just hover across that half-forward line and he'll do all the ruck work from full back onwards. He's a good player. He's a very, very good player, and he's the barometer. He was the barometer in that first quarter. He got out to them. He pushed and shoved, did all the right stuff a ruckman should do. He was fantastic that first final.
Absolutely, boys. Well, I guess moving on to that, what's your tips? I mean, Robinvale-Euston will take a little bit of confidence, I think, coming into this game, but surely you would expect Irymple not to have 2 down weeks like they've had in a row.
Well, I'm treading warily here, boys, because we've come up so far in this segment, so got to find something here.
The fishing hooks have been empty for us.
You picked Imps. I'll give you the dues there. You picked Imps against us here last week.
Yeah,
you did. Under duress.
Yeah, I think you did sort of almost sway me, I think, towards the start of the game on Saturday, but that wasn't on camera, so we'll get away with that. But you would expect Irymple to bounce back to some degree, but I reckon it's going to be a closer game than maybe what we saw between the 2 teams towards the end of the home and away season.
No doubt, but they've got too much to lose, the Swallows. They've had such a great 2019, and to bow out in straight sets would be so disappointing. I think they're going to find enough to get over the line.
Same. I think it's going to be a great game, and I think it's going to come down to the wire, because I think Robinvale have improved a bit, and Irymple have gone the other way with confidence.
Yep.
Okay, so I think it's going to be a really, really close game. So it'll be a great game of football. Go either way, but I'm going to go with Irymple just for that fact, like Paddy just said. Great season. Yeah,
I think I'm on the Swallows bandwagon there as well. So if you are around in Sunraysia, make sure you get down to Sarah Oval, number 3 Oval at South Mildura's home ground this weekend for Robinvale-Euston versus Irymple. Just before we go today as well, boys, obviously on Monday night coming up is the McLeod Medal, the night of nights for the Sunraysia Football and Netball League. And Dan Coughlin, in his first couple of seasons, I don't know what he's done to some of the umpiring fraternity, but he's missed out on a few votes here and there and potentially could have been expected to win 1 of 2. But surely it's got to be 1 out of 3. You would think he'd have to be the red-hot favourite going in.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, based on the media awards that we've seen, he's been such a clear-cut winner of most of those, hasn't he? And so you think him first with Daylight second, that's probably where the interesting question comes. So who's going to come runner-up?
Well, I suppose that's the next question, as you said, Paddy. The rest of the podium, boys, who makes up second and third?
I say Josh Carmichael is second for me. I really like his season. I think it's been outstanding. I think he'll be umpire catching, voting type sort of player. I think he'll go very well. We've called Moobeen 5 times this year. Would have been in our best of those 5 games. So there's 10 votes for me. So he's thereabouts for me.
And I suppose you'd have to look at the Imperials side as well, coming up the top half of the ladder, and your likes of your Hards boys are always going to be in and amongst the votes. But I suppose sometimes, Paddy, you see with the better teams that maybe guys steal votes off each other. Yeah,
they do, but I think Ryan Hards is a perennial vote getter, isn't he? So I think he'll go pretty strongly. So that therein lies probably your top 3, probably Coughlin, Carmichael and Ryan Hards. I'm pretty happy with that.
Yes, am I actually.
Geez, the Hards boys, I reckon if you put all their votes together, they'd have the most from a family without ever having won a McLeod medal at some stage, wouldn't they?
Their physicality on Saturday was brilliant, boys.
Yep.
Ryan's second term, when he stood up for himself, pushed back and said, come on, we're going to go.
Set the tone, didn't it?
It set the tone. That's exactly what it was. It wasn't a passage of play. It wasn't anything else. It was just an incident form where he said, no, we're not taking this.
Absolutely. We certainly saw a fantastic game there, and looking forward to another one this Saturday. Paddy, Johnny, thanks very much for joining us again, boys, and look forward to calling with you on 106.7 on Saturday.
Thanks, Mitchie.
Thank you, Mitchie.
Thanks very much for joining us again. Remember, you can get your commemorative premiership posters from the Mildura Weekly office. Just head to the homepage on our website and follow the links from there. And you can pre-order also as well for the Sunraysia Football and Netball League Grand Finals. Thanks for joining me again, and thanks for joining the boys. We look forward to your company again next week when we're previewing the SFNL Grand Final.
Today's Three Wise Men is proudly brought to you by Club Aquarius.